After Reaganomics, the middle class started dwindling down. Why is that? Bad economics. Bad economics. People in position who do not understand economics. They understand how to make more money, but they don't understand the side effect that it's going to cause.
Or
Or they
they
don't
just don't
care.
give a fuck. Yeah,
Yeah, they don't
they
care
just
about the
don't give a
side
fuck.
effects.
My thing is that I just don't think that they give a fuck.
Well, it depends. They don't. They don't. It's and the thing is because they're in the pockets of corporations. So
Hmm.
so so the answer to this question, like I keep saying, is knowledge. People got to start understanding how economics work.
Yeah,
Because if they understand
everybody.
how economics work, they'll be able to stop the politician in their place. Hold on,
Yep.
wait a minute. You say you want to do what? No, 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 no. You can't do that, boy. That's gonna cause massive inflation in my area, and I won't be able to eat right. Or no,
Mhm.
that's gonna kill. It's gonna cause massive deflation. This is the reason why it's important for all of us to understand how economics work. We can't just blindly follow leaders thinking that they're thinking for our good. Not everybody's thinking
Exactly.
like that. You got to understand how this stuff works, man. We're the adults now of the time. That back then they were. Now we are. This is something we all have to inherit, and it's best for us to know what we're inheriting.
Yeah,
So it's like, hold on, wait, you
but
guys.
yeah.
No, I'm just like you guys are sending us stuff like, oh, you guys won't have no more Social Security. Okay, so when we get, oh, we won't have Social Security, yeah, you guys can expect that. Hold on, pause right there. What do you mean by that? Because you know how Social Security came about in the first place, right? Because we had a Great Depression back in the day,
Yep.
and the mob came to Roosevelt because Roosevelt wasn't going to do any of that. But the mob came to Roosevelt and said, "We're going to kill you if you do not help us," because they were
Hmm.
desperate because we were going through a Great Depression. Roosevelt started changing everything. And then that's when all that Social Security started coming in and all that stuff like that. In other words, people had to threaten the government just to get they look. I'm not saying that we
Yeah,
should do that because we don't need to do that. What I'm trying to
but
say
that's
is
that's that that
people
that
need to
that's
just get
basically what's happening.
educated. But
Yeah.
see the whole storm of the Capitol thing, that was a dumb thing right there because they just I'm gonna tell you why that was dumb. This is the reason why that was stupid. This is the reason why I think it was stupid. If I was in that group of people, you know the first thing I would have asked them? I would have said, guys, after we storm the Capitol, what are we gonna do? Because
Yeah.
because I mean, what are we going to do once we get in there?
Yep.
We're gonna just scream? We're gonna scream and demand anything? No, 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 bro. Ain't gonna work. The only thing that should have been done was not storming the Capitol. The most
Yeah.
powerful tool
I
we
agree.
have,
Yep. Yep.
the most powerful tool we have as consumers is boycotting. Back in the day when
And
black
voting.
people when black yeah and back in the day when black people were being treated like trash, what
Yep.
did we do?
Boycotted the shit.
Boycott it, boycott, and that got their attention. You, the only way you're going to get these people attention is you hit their pockets.
But you know how corny that seems to like to us, it's fathomable. This generation, it just seems like our generation is being skipped over, and they're just heading right toward the younger people who think
You know why they
boycotting
think?
who is corny
I'm gonna tell
when
you why
it's
they think it's corny.
functional.
I'm gonna tell you why they think it's corny. There's one thing that makes boycotting hard to do. There's two things actually. One is social. That's the first thing. Social acceptance. The second is everybody has credit cards.
Yep,
Back then it was easy to boycott because not everybody had a credit card to slide.
it's true.
You
Yeah,
can hold your cash in your hand and say I'm not spending it. Today it's harder to boycott because everybody got a credit card. So that means everybody can afford stuff. And that makes it hard to boycott now because everybody is in your pockets. And that is the reason why it seems like, oh, boycotting ain't gonna work. Well, yeah, it ain't gonna work, man, because everybody's in freaking debt because everybody got credit cards sliding left and right. The thing
but if
is, man,
everybody had the discipline, if discipline was instilled in motherfuckers, it could work.
that that's what the
So,
return of that's the return of
yep,
education and economics, man.
yeah. So here's the residual. This is basically the residual problem of that. If you don't have the discipline, and you're going and you're pushing to be in charge of a government or changing the government, what plans do you have in place? And how
Exactly.
disciplined are you going to be to not overcorrect a situation that was a problem, but it should be corrected in the right way? and not overstep and overcorrect. Because once you overcorrect, you then give the people that you have overcorrected ammunition to then recorrect, overcorrect, and then it just keeps going back and forth, and that's the problem that I think we have now.
So
And
going back down,
I think one of the issues should be a third party,
yeah,
but nobody
we need
wants to
more
do that.
parties. We need more
Yeah,
parties.
we have parties. We need the
I know,
promotion of the parties that already exist.
and nobody exactly. And another thing too, they need to tax these corporations to bring the jobs back because
Yeah.
they're getting too many people opportunities overseas, which is yeah, that all looks fine and dandy, but it's not fine and dandy when people over here are suffering economically. You
Yep.
need to bring it back. You need because see, you want us to buy your products, well then you need to pay us so we can buy your products. In
Yeah.
general economics, if you want to stay on top, people at the bottom, quote, at the bottom, have to make money.
Yeah.
We could dude, we buy your
There has
stuff.
to be a middle class. Yeah, there has to be a middle class.
You need us to make money to buy your stuff. If we don't make money, we don't buy your stuff, and that means you run out of business. People, I just, it's the economics of it. It just, it's, I just,
One of the things, the reason why I left the Democrat Party is because I really don't trust them. They're the friend that stabs you in the back, that acts like your friend. They keep pushing for immigration and for people to come over when issues here haven't been discovered. I think they want to replace the people here that are at the lower levels with other people from, because they already have a big immigration policy for mass immigration of Indians from India to come over here to be American, because they are very pro-American over in India. So you bring them over here and you have a dedicated baseline. And if the Democrats say, listen, we did this policy for you, which is what Kamala Harris is pushing for because she's half Indian, and Biden is going to support her because he has to. He has no choice.
I think
so. That's going to be a problem. And the problem in Mexico, where you're just going to open the border and just let everybody come in here and just take over everybody else's positions at a lower level. Don't you think that that's going to cause an instability in this country?
Nah, honestly, because I'm independent, so I don't trust either party. But honestly, man, I think that problem right that you said right there, even though it is a problem, I think it's a smaller problem. I think the bigger picture that everybody's missing is general economics of the corporations that are here. That's the problem. That's the problem. Look, if I apply in Atlanta, Georgia right now for some of these corporations, I'm going to get paid. I'm going to get paid so low that I'm going to barely be able to afford my living. But if you hire someone overseas, you get a break.
Yeah.
So who's the problem here? The corporations is the problem. That's the problem. The ultimate slave owners, the corporations, they're the problems. Those are the ones who are hiding behind the government and want you to point at the government. We need to start pointing at the corporations because they're the ones that's causing this. They're the ones that bought the government. They're the ones that bought the networks. They're the ones that increase prices on us. Guarantee that if you're staying in an apartment and it's a REIT, that's a corporation behind it, your behind's going to be priced out. This is the reason why the problem is being ignored, because the corporation owns the networks. They're never going to say anything negative about themselves. You will never hear anything negative about them. You will always hear things negative about the government. Because corporations work that way. Don't put
And
any
two
blame
sides
on
that
me.
are controllable, good cop, bad cop. They're controllable.
Exactly.
But when the critical thinker comes in, that's a fucking problem.
Yeah, that's why they don't want you to be a critical thinker. Because if you can critically think, you'll point the fingers back to where it's problem starting. That's corporation.
Yeah. And it's not people, it is problems. Specific problems, not an entire, entity or person.
Yeah, to me, the government doesn't exist because the corporations have already paid them off.
Yeah,
I
that shit was,
guarantee.
that shit was done when the gold standard was fucking over with.
Go look at Google, Microsoft, and Amazon and see what happens. Their biggest donations went to the corporation, went to governments right now. Look,
yeah,
the problem is
Chinese lobby too.
Well, yeah, you know what? Here's the thing about China. Honestly, the thing about China is they're doing, and that's what you won't hear a lot of these people who are pro-American say. I'm, like I said, I'm neutral. I look at everything. I don't like a lot of things China do, but the reason why America has a problem with China is because China is doing what America has done, but they're doing it better. China starts off with slavery of their own people. America
Yep.
starts off with slavery of other people. China
Yep.
goes off and start making partners with the world better than America did. So what China is doing is they're being America Part Two, but doing it better.
Yeah,
And
but I don't
I'm
care.
not
It's
saying
still fucked up.
I'm not saying I like exactly. I'm not saying I like China, but what I'm saying is we can't ignore the fact that China is just a better version of America because America
Yeah, of
is
course.
completely guilty of all that, and they still have not paid it back.
Of
So,
course.
in my opinion, I think America need to focus on getting these corporation lobbyists the hell out of daggone Washington. There
Well,
should
that's
be
gonna
no
have to. That's
lobbyists.
gonna.
But that's
That's gonna
going to
have
be
to do
hard
with
though.
the people.
Exactly. Exactly. That's going to be hard because when you got lobbyists sitting in there for corporations, we got a problem because we don't got anyone to represent us.
Hell no.
We never
Who,
do.
who, who represents us?
Yeah. I don't trust none of them motherfuckers.
Who represents us? We don't have any lobbyists. When you
I
go,
trust.
oh,
I trust
with,
the person who delivers my Uber food more than I trust these fucking politicians, bro.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yes, that's true.
And that's real though. That's real.
Yeah,
That's real
I'm
though.
dead ass.
But
What's that? You was gonna say something?
I'll be honest. I had Alexandria. Like one of the major disappointments was for me was AOC.
but look,
And when she got in and she started talking her talk, I was like, please don't do this. Please don't do it. And she just slowly progressed toward like a Hispanic female Trump. And I'm like, you're being just exactly the way he is, just in a different party. But like
Okay.
I had to back away, yo. I gave up on people and I'm focusing on policy now.
But what it goes back to, man. It goes back to economics. When the Mexican, like you said, the Mexican border, you said they let people over, and then they take the lower paying jobs. Once again, we got to go back to the corporation. Why? Well, corporations are the ones that are hiring them at the lower paying job, and not paying taxes. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we can,
Yeah, I know.
like, when you look at the news is owned by corporations. They will always point you to the lowest denominator, but you have to be a critical thinker and understand that if the news is reporting that these people are taking jobs, the question I'm going to ask is, who the hell are the farmers hiring these people and not paying taxes? Because they're the ones that's hurting the economy. The farmers who are hiring these people who are not paying taxes are the problem. Because if
I
I'm
mean,
a Mexican, look,
they,
let me
they,
tell
look,
you,
look, look. Hold on.
they also get heavily regulated, and the farming industry is not what it used to be.
no.
For,
The
There is
industry
corporate
heavily
involvement in
regulated.
that.
The farming industry is heavily regulated, but they're not regulated enough because they're still hiring people who are not from this country. You see what I'm saying? Here's what I'm saying. If I'm Mexicans, I had a couple of Mexican friends that had stories of their families coming over borders overseas. If
I'm
I'm
actually
Mexican,
mixed too. I'm
you know,
mixed. I'm
if I'm
Latino and black.
right. So if I'm Mexican and I'm coming over that border, I am no different from a person who came over that border looking for an opportunity. I deserve the same respect as the Irishman that came over the border the same way.
Yep.
America problem is the corporation who decides to hire that cheap labor like they did black people and pay them
Yep.
nothing like they did black people and turn it around and say, these people took your jobs. They ain't taking no damn job. You ain't paying them. These dudes making freaking 25 cents on the hour.
Because no, the
Your
thing
problem
is,
is y'all ain't paying us. It said, oh,
That's
well, we
true.
can't do that. We can't do that because if we pay y'all, then the food prices will get higher. Not true. Not true at all. If you paid us properly, we'll be able to afford the food prices.
look,
You see, what
if
they're doing is
if they
they're
paid
playing a toy game here. Sorry about that. Go
if
ahead,
they
man.
paid us equal, if they would pay us equal, we would be the same thing because the prices will not be all over the place.
Exactly.
It would be balanced.
Exactly. And that's why I'm
But
saying, that's why
here's what
the media,
here's where a paradox forms, because if that's the case, then there's a moral issue that has to be brought up on the person accepting that lower income. Because when the
Yeah.
Irish came over, they took the average English person's it's more of a shorter period of time, But when the Irish came, they took the lower paying jobs from the English people. English and the I forgot what you call them. The
Dutch.
crazy religious groups and shit. Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
they got mad at the Irish. Then
Mhm.
Africans were freed, became African Americans. The corporations, like you said, started hiring the blacks, and the Irish got mad, and that's where you got the riots and shit. And now it's coming from everywhere, from
But
India,
I thought
from
that riot came
Thailand,
from
from
the
Mexico, and now you have the same issue happening now, and it's just not being recognized, it's not being talked about, because there's responsibility now on everybody's part at this point.
Well,
Government, corporations, the people
yeah,
that the only person that is really losing out on this, like you said, is the person that's not being paid what they should be paid, because they then
yeah.
can't find the job in the industry that they want to, or they live around the area and the only thing there is farming jobs.
but
But you do have these people that are coming over, that are being transported over by the cartel, and bussed over to these various farms and being paid shit.
yeah, but
Yep.
you
And
know what, man?
it's like, yo,
And this is exactly why we
it's
got
a
the mafia and the
paradox, because
cartel.
Mhm.
as an importer, and you're going to these farms, you're like, yo, I gotta feed my family. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So I have to accept this amount.
and
Is
yeah, and that,
and I'm sorry if I'm taking your job, but I have to accept this amount. And that's the moral issue on the corporate side of it, and that's the moral issue on the immigration side, because it's like, listen, if you actually demanded what the other person was supposed to be paid, there's no way that they can't pay you that, because they're not
no,
going to
no,
have anybody,
but you gotta,
they're not going to have anybody working for them for that cheaper price. And the
but you gotta think
paradox
about it
comes,
though.
the issue is that there's always going to be somebody that's going to accept that lower level of income.
And that is the paradox of America. The
Exactly.
problem is, the problem
There's no
is, the
way you can
problem is,
solve that.
the problem is this, bro. America is not being what they're supposed to be. When you look at the Statue of Liberty, the problem with people in the
People
Statue of
aren't
Liberty, yeah, the problem
people
with
aren't being
people in
what
the
they're
Statue,
supposed to be.
exactly, the problem with the Statue of Liberty, right? If you read, if the people who come to this country and if the government reminds themselves and read what the Statue of Liberty says, what the Statue of Liberty says go completely opposite of what the media is reporting. Problem is people are getting involved in what the media is telling them. Once again, the media is owned by corporations. Spotify owned by Google. Spotify partnership with Google. Everything you're going to see advertised to you is being owned by a corporation, unless you listen to independent media that is not owned by a corporation, which is very hard to look at. You got to find that. But the thing is, if you're listening to the main media is owned by corporations, corporations will never report to you what's really happening. They're going to always understand that if they're blaming a group of people or blaming a certain country, always you want to kick back and think, okay, so why are they doing that? Because they're telling me something that they want me to know. So if they want me to know